Ox Tools is my name, and Meatloaf is the game for today. For those of you that are new to the channel, I'm Tom, the host, and Meatloaf is a collection of engineering, machining, and metalworking subjects. We look at tools, we look at books, we look at all kinds of things, viewer gifts, that kind of stuff. So sit back and relax. There's usually something for everybody in a Meatloaf. Okay, these come to us from a gentleman named Jim Fellner, and he's in Williamsport, Pennsylvania, South Williamsport to be specific. He contacted me and said he had some old weird instruments that I might be interested in, and he was right. These are pretty cool. And so what the heck are they, right? That's the first question. So there's some ID marks on here, although no maker's mark in particular. But there is a patent number on it. So I was able to look it up, and this was invented. This was invented by a guy named let's see, I got a name over here, William Sykes, and he had a whole bunch of patents that were related to gear cutting and measuring and metrology of gears, right? And that's exactly what this is. This is for measuring the pitch or the tooth depth or the pitch depth of spur gears. Okay, and I guess you set it with gauge blocks, and then it has this has a little collet arrangement for an indicator or a depth gauge or whatever, so that you can measure the pitch diameter or the some component of the circular part of gears. Okay, and then he also actually was kind of neat because he has some patents on. And some of you guys may be familiar with herringbone gears, and these are helical gears that have two sets of gear teeth that kind of face one another. So when you have helical gears, there's a thrust component that's along the axis of rotation, right? And herringbone gears basically kind of cancel that by sending that thrust load into itself, basically. So, the idea behind helical and herringbone gears is they run much quieter than spur gears, and so they transmit more efficiently, and they're quieter. And anyway, but they have this thrust issue that you have to deal with. So you either have to put a thrust bearing or do something like a herringbone. Getting off the subject here, but there's a couple ways that you can make these herringbone gears, and one is by using a shaper, and it's a very, very clever arrangement of these shaper heads to cut these teeth, because they actually cut them down to a very sharp, and you may have seen them in pictures, is they come to a very sharp kind of intersection, right? And it's like, how the hell do they do that, right? Because you're cutting this way and you're cutting this way, right? And so you can have a relief in the center, so it's clear how that works. Then you can cut into that relief. But some of them actually terminate into one another, right? And it's a very clever shaper head. So if you want to look at an interesting area of engineering, and this was done, literally, I don't know, 150 years ago or whatever, they had these shapers that would cut these herringbone gears. Pretty cool. Anyway, this guy, William Sykes, has some patents associated with those cutter heads. So, whew, boy, that's a lot, right? So anyway, this is for measuring gear teeth. I don't have a spur gear that we can put this on, but it's got a little adjustment screw so you can run these in and out, and the idea is you put some kind of gauging element in between, and it's closing about the center line here, so this gauge always is in the same place, or this depth rod is always in the same place. So that's the one thing, and then this one's kind of interesting too, so let's set that aside. And then I'll get a little closer, and then we'll take a look at this thing here, because this is kind of neat. So this is a commercial version of kind of what this does. This is a gear tooth vernier, and or vernier for the pedantic folks out there. So it's pronounced both ways here in the U.S. So anyway, this measures the tooth thickness at a particular depth. There's a specification for a particular pitch of gear. It'll have a particular tooth thickness at a particular depth, and that's what this tool measures here. So kind of like this, very similar. They even look kind of alike, okay? Now this guy here, this was part of what Jim sent, and what it is it's a homemade version of one of these here, and this is a what's called boy, that's kind of stiff, Mr. Wizard. Why is it stiff? Lack of use would be my guess. So this is what's called a diemaker square. This is a Starrett 457, and then this is a ESB. I don't know what that stands for, but it's a Swiss version of it. And this one has a little set screw that can change the angle of this blade so that you can set it at an angle. And what these are for are checking the relief angles for punches and dies in die making work, right? So you want a couple degrees of relief behind the female die, right? When the punch goes in, it needs to open up underneath it so that the slug can clear. So usually you want a couple of degrees of clearance in the die. So now this one, so let's set the commercial ones aside. This is a homemade one here. And I got a little, let's see, a little ruler here. Yeah, I got a little ruler. And the way this one works, let's see if I can get a rule in here. Okay. So it's got a little seat for the ruler to sit in, right? And it's actually, and all this screw is doing is pushing it down into that flat, right? And so you can set an angle. Here, let's set a couple degrees of angle there, and then you can kind of lock it all up, and then you can use a standard rule in this. Now this would be kind of a cool little project for folks that want to mess around, right? This one's a little more complicated, the way they've done it. This rotating piece has a slot through it that's a little harder to produce than a flat like this one has here. But let's take it apart and you can get a look at it, and then maybe copy the design for yourself. I mean, it's all pretty easy stuff here. So, okay, right? All right, and the difference here is the little ruler is captured in that boss. So there's a slot through the boss in the case of this one here. But there, you just got a pocket. It's got a slit. It's got an angular scale on it. That's not too hard to do, right? These look like they were probably hand stamped here to me, right? They just did a good job, right? And but they just got that little bit of depth variation to them that lead me to believe that they were kind of hand done, right? And then the pointer, it's got a little tiny little line, center line in it too. So let's see, how is that clocked to that? So maybe that's just something that you tune, right? When you cut the slit, right, you want this to be perpendicular to that slit real close, right? Or pretty close. Anyway, pretty easy to make. Jim, thanks for sending that along. This, I think this is probably the only homemade one of these that I've ever seen. I never really thought about it, right? Because I've had this one for, I fell in love with these in the Starrett catalog, 20 years ago, right? So of course I bought one, right? And used it like, I don't know. Let's put it this way, I got way enough fingers on one hand how many times I've used this, right? It's not like this thing is got rounded corners on it and is wearing out anytime soon. So Anyway, Jim, thanks for sending these items. Very cool, interesting little history there. And I don't know if you guys can see the patent number. If you want to look up the patent number is 1597636. And the guy's name is William Sykes, and you can look up some of his patents and check it out because it's kind of interesting. What we have here is we got a couple of interesting instruments here, and this comes to us from one of my neighbors actually, and he is the son of this gentleman here, Mr. I can't remember if it's Frank or Fred Schum. Who used to work for, let's see, who the heck was it? It was Carrier Corporation, I guess. And they install heating and cooling type equipment. It's large. Actually, he did these very large, like building air conditioning and heating systems. You know, we're talking, you know, thousands of horsepower type cooling units and whatnot. So. Anyway, Stephen, who's my neighbor, apparently watches my videos, and he bumped into me and said, "Hey, I got these cool instruments that came from my dad's estate," and he says, "When I was a kid, I used to play with these, you know, in his office." And he said, "Yeah, there was this one that you actually looked through, and it had a lens and stuff." And I said, "Really?" I said, and he goes, "What would you be interested in looking at them?" And I said, "Sure, bring them by. Let's take a look at them," right? Well, anyway, he brought them by. Thank you very much, Stephen. And let's look at this one first. Actually, out of the two, this is the more interesting one, and we're going to spend more time with this one. This one actually works. This one does not work. I tested it. And this is just a kind of a standard handheld tachometer here. And this one has a series of appliances here that you can put into different rotating shafts and read the speed of the shaft or a wheel and get feet per minute and whatnot off of that. Now, I played around with this one a little bit. It's a little bit sick. I don't quite know what's wrong with it, but I can't get it to behave. I took the cover off of it and kind of looked at it. I didn't see anything obviously wrong. And I kind of stopped there since it doesn't belong to me. And although it does, the needle does rotate now, so a little bit. So this one has an internal timer, which is kind of interesting too. So it times it for a particular interval, and which makes it kind of interesting. I have one like similar to this, but it doesn't have an internal timer. So let's put that one away. And you know, anything that comes in a leatherette box with a velvet lining is going to be fun, right? So now this one here, this is the one that he played with when he was a kid. And let's just go ahead and open it up here. Actually, let's use this as a prop. And notice right out of the gate that it's lined with purple velvet, right? And I think I've mentioned this before. Purple is the color of royalty, and it's and this is, you know, it's a pretty special little instrument here. So let's get the name there so you can see it there. And what this is a stroboscopic tachometer. So it's an optical tachometer, and I had never heard of such a thing in my travels, and but now here we have one here to play with, right? And so let's take a quick look at it. We'll survey the outside, and then what I'm going to try to do is shoot some video through the eyepiece and see if we can actually see how this thing works. Now I don't know how that's going to work with the frame rate of the video camera and this, and you know, there's some magic going on there. So not sure it's going to work, but we'll give it a try. So here's the unit. Actually, set that down. Don't roll away. All right. Here's the unit, and what it has a series of discs with different slits in it, and these are for different combinations of fan blades or speed ranges. or elements on a wheel, legs on a wheel and whatnot. And you can just remove this cover and pop that off and put a different plate on there. And then it has a body that's screwed to the housing here, okay? And you see how that's kind of going in and going out, right? And then it has a couple of scales here that we see on this. So the idea here, and then this is the business end here, and it has this wheel. So what it is it's got a clock mechanism in it, and you wind this thing up. It has a big spring inside it, and you wind it up, and it starts to rotate this disc, okay? And as we rotate this housing here, and it separates, there's a braking mechanism in there that allows the disc to start turning. Actually, we can go ahead and let's wind it up a little bit here and give it a spin here, and you guys can see that. So there it's kind of basically all the way down, and then as I open it up, it spins faster and faster and faster, right? And you can even hear it there. It's buzzing pretty good. And the idea is what you're doing is you're looking through that slit, okay, and we're just going to let this run down. You're looking through that slit, and then what we're doing is we're tuning this to a speed where we get a resonant, or where we actually freeze the image of the rotating thing that we're examining, right? And then we can read off of the scale here. So this is really cool. And I was, when I saw it, I was like, holy cow, how does that work, right? And then I read the little book, and I was very excited. And I have a fan here in the shop, and I tried it on the fan, and it works perfectly, right? So I could see why Stephen was fascinated by this thing. It was just, it's just got the, this is the kind of thing that your dad, when you're a kid, tells you, don't touch that, don't mess around with that, right? And what do? Of course, you mess around with it, right? Because that's what boys do, right? Or that's what kids do, I should say. That's what kids do. So anyway, that's kind of how it works. And like I said, there's some different discs depending on what speed range that you're operating in. And then this particular one has the whole little instruction book with it, which is really good. And so I know that there's some folks that are jumping on eBay right now to see if they can find one, right? So yeah, there's an example of a pulley setup and whatnot. And there's how you use it, in case you're wondering. You put it up to your eye. So let me fool around with this a little bit and see if I can get the video camera set up through this. And I'm gonna have to clamp this somehow and then shoot the video camera through there. Then I can rotate this image, and we'll see if we can scope out the fan and see if we can get a good video image of that. So give me a minute, and I'll be right back. All right, here's our setup. So I've got the Visutac on this tripod here, so that I can tilt it and kind of align it with this the fan that's down there. So I'm centered up pretty well. Now and you see my little quickie bracket there to kind of hold it. So now I want to align the video camera through the eyepiece and try to focus it and whatnot, and then get the thing fired up and see if I can get a good image through it. So let me. Hopefully, when we do this next fade, we'll be looking through that Visutac and see what we can see. I almost got it. Look at that. We've kind of frozen the window over that rotating image. So I'm varying the bezel here a little bit. Alright, what does it read? I can't read the scale right now without blocking the front of it. So I wind it in now. It's interesting. It's a little different looking at the view through the viewfinder of the video camera. when I hold it up to my eye, let's see, I'm trying to get you the fan image. Oop, let's go. Oh, I'm running out of, I gotta rewind the thing. Wind it back up. There, I'm freezing that window over the viewfinder there. Ooh. That's pretty cool, huh? That actually kind of works. So when I look through the viewfinder, normally the fan blade image kind of freezes. And here we still see a rotation of the, the spring is decaying now. We see the fan is still rotating, but we've actually frozen the aperture of the unit, which is kind of cool. So anyway, that's not a bad shot actually. So kind of cool, huh? All right, we're losing speed here. All right, I figured I better turn this on. There we go. I better turn it on. I was getting a pretty good image. So this is another shot. And once again, I'm kind of holding that aperture. Like that. So yeah, there must be something going on with the frame rate and the speed of the fan. So which is still kind of neat. Anyway, pretty cool stuff. All right, well that actually, I think came out pretty good, so we'll see when we get to the video editing how it came out. Anyway, Stephen, thank you very much for loaning me these instruments. That was a lot of fun. I got a real kick out of this one, just like you did when you were a kid. And I really appreciate you trusting me with these and loaning them out. So I'll find you and return these to you. And anyway, once again, thank you so much for letting everybody see these, okay? So this book here, I bought this one recently. I was listening to a podcast, and that was the Home Shop Machinist podcast. And if you don't listen to those guys, you should. They're pretty entertaining. They talk about some of the things that they're working on and their car nuts, and so that's Justin and the other guy. So. And I'm saying that to make a joke. His name is Max, so I do remember. So anyway, the Max is he does watches and clocks and things like that. So he mentioned this particular book in the podcast, and there was another reference to it somewhere else. I don't quite remember now. And I said, hey, you know what? I'm just going to get it. Because my belief is there's a lot to be learned from other crafts and trades that you can apply to your own work. And this is a great example because here just right on the cover, right, we have all kinds of tiny little parts that are basically machined, right? And some of these things are very tricky to hold. The accuracies that are required for some of these things are very, very tight. And there's kind of an artistic component to watchmaking and clock making, things like that, that can be appreciated. So now we're not going to go through, I got a couple of tags in here. All I'm going to say is just get the book, and you'll learn something from it. And looking stuff up online, yeah, that's all fine and dandy, but you never know what you might need to know. When you flip through a book, there's kind of no search engine, right? So you just kind of randomly stumble on things, right? And I guess it happens on the web too, but your interests shift and you find new things in a book all the time. So that's all I'm going to say. So I'm a book guy. So let's see here. I got one page here. So, in the past, we've been talking about screwdrivers and how they fit the slots and things like that. And I've been schooled properly by the the watchmaker guys that this is the appropriate fit of a screwdriver in the slot. And then the other thing that I thought was very interesting was there's a lot of different slots on watches, and they actually custom dress the angle and the thickness for each screw. So that's just kind of a normal, everyday business for watchmaker folks, is they just kind of touch up their screwdrivers to fit these slots, and I guess they're considered more of a consumable, and as opposed to having a million of them that fit everything that comes along, right? So it's not supposed to hit the bottom, it's supposed to wedge in, but not wedge at the top, wedge something slightly below subsurface there, so that it doesn't mark the screw up, because some of these screws, there's a lot of work in these screws. So that's just a little bit on the screwdriver thing. And then there is a whole gigantic section on making small components, right? Machining them, turning them, how do you hold them, work holding, polishing, finishing, layout. I mean, here's a great one here, right? You're holding there's tons of little work holding fixtures in here, right? So what they're doing here is they're holding on to a very slender, kind of needle-ish hand for a watch, and they're doing a little bit of deburring or polishing work on it there. So, and they've made a little fixture to kind of hold that. So this is all kinds of neat stuff that you can pick up on. In particular, like I said, holding small parts for doing deburring or finishing operations, things like that, where some of these things get kind of tricky. And so I can recommend this book. I've just skimmed it so far. And it's worth getting. It's not a particularly expensive book. This one I bought used. See, it's a little bit beat up, which is fine. And it came all the way from England. It was only $10 to ship it from England. So anyway, George Daniels Watchmaking. So I went to the welding shop the other day, and I needed some wire brushes, and so I picked up some wire brushes there. And this particular welding shop, this is East Bay Welding Supply. They're in Pacheco. Nice guys. They're not open on Saturday anymore, unfortunately. So I was out running around during the week, and I happened to go by there, so I popped in. And they always have something. I don't know. They're into tools and whatnot, so there's usually something of interest there. And I saw this thing here, and kind of said, oh, that's kind of a nice looking piece. What is that, right? And I was pretty sure it was a pencil or a pen or a marker of some sort, and it's exactly what it is. And so it's a construction pencil, and it uses a nice soft lead here, but it's got a little collet arrangement here, right? That grips the lead quite well, and it's a construction pencil, but it's kind of heavy duty, and it's got this nice cylindrical thing so that you can go around the inside of a small hole or whatever. Now, and this was about $12, I think. You can find them on Amazon, and Christmas coming up or whatever, and you want to get a gift for somebody, or get some small gifts just to hand out or whatever. This might be a good little one here. But what I was intrigued with was the case. The case is pretty good, right? Got a nice clip, a nice sturdy clip. It's got teeth on the thing, so it really grips. And you see this little ridge right here, this little kind of crest here, or this chine in the molding, right? It clicks into that, and I'm going to be real quiet here. Boom, and you probably heard that, right? That click, and it's very secure in there, so you could, wear this like a fighting knife or whatever on your on your suspenders and whip it out and do a lot of quick marking with it. So anyway, and it's got a little sharpener built into it, which was that. Once I saw that, I went, oh, I'm getting one. Okay. Now, I didn't buy any extra leads for them. They had tubes of lead I figured I'd just get this first, and the original one that comes with it, that should last quite a while. And the lead is it's 2.75 millimeter diameter, so it's kind of a weird size. I don't know if that. I'd have to go to the art store to see if they have lead. Anyway, nice soft lead, and then let's use the sharpener there real quick. And there it goes, nice and sharp again. And if you need some lubricant, you can make your own dry lubricant really quickly. Anyway, and I don't know how to pronounce that. Holtafors. They make. They actually, the name was familiar, and I couldn't remember why. And I looked it up on the web, and they actually make axes and hatchets and things like that. So. Anyway, a nice Christmas gift or if you're looking for a good pencil to put in the apron and whatnot that you can sharpen on the fly, then there you go. So I kind of like it. What's even better than a More Precision Tools jig bore badge? Now this is original off of a jig bore, brass, probably silk screened back in the day. What's even better than that? Question. Okay, well, I'll tell you what's better than that. Your very own T-shirt with that same badge on it. Now, here's the story. So I horse traded some stuff, and I ended up with this badge off of an old Moore jig bore. And I had a friend of mine, Tom Utley, who makes machine tags like this. I sent him these images just so he could have them in his library. But I said, hey, what would it take to clean that up? And he says, oh, well, let me mess around with it. So he cleaned it up, and I ended up with this here. And I had to put on some T-shirts. Now, if you guys want one, and if you know anything about Moore tools, then you probably might be keen on having one of these T-shirts. In the banner right below the video window, you can scroll through the Teespring selections there for my channel, and you'll find this shirt, and you can order it in your size and whatever color you like. And it's a great way to support the channel. I never ask for handouts or Patreon, support or things like that. That's just not my gig. And but this is a great way to support the channel, and you get something back in your hand that's tangible for you too. And you're doing a great thing supporting the channel and helping out. So if you've got some people on your Christmas list that might be interested in this, hit them up and order up a T-shirt or two, and it's much appreciated. So thank you very much.